Welcome to Total Technik. Today we're focusing on how to remove the door. This can be the driver's door or the passenger side door, front or rear, for the Audi A6, S6 or RS6. This is for the C5, either the saloon or the Avant. So let's go. Okay, so if you open up your door and have a look on the inside, this is where the hinges are, right here, and we can have a look at how this door is actually held onto the car. What we have is size 45 Torx screws. There's one in there, just at the very top, and as we come down the door, towards the bottom down here, we've got a further two of these on the lower hinge just here. So there's those two there. Okay. Now, one thing to point out is in the centre here, you'll see we've got the empty space just here. This is where the normally, obviously, you've got like a rubber sheath or grommet that goes between these two, and within those are the electrical wires for the door. So you've got the door wiring loom and the wing mirror electric loom as well. Those pass through the door in this location. Obviously, to be able to remove the door from the car, those need to be disconnected. So if you're unsure how to do those, we filmed a video on how to disconnect both of those looms. I'll add the links to those videos below this video on YouTube. So scroll down, there'll be links there for you. So if you need to know how to do that, you can have a look at those. One very important thing to point out, if you are going to check out the video on how to remove these, is basically you can skip the first half of those videos, because you don't need to disconnect anything from within the door. So you can skip to the second half of those videos, which is basically how to disconnect your looms from down here in the footwell. Because what you'll do is you'll disconnect your looms, draw them up to this point here, and you'll have them hanging out here. You won't need to go into the door. So like I said, ignore the first half of those videos. Hopefully that makes sense. So let's crack on with these bolts. Okay, so looking at these bolts here, they're size 45, which is quite big, and also what tends to make them quite difficult to initially crack off. To undo them is that they're often painted in situ. So that means there's an actual layer of paint that needs to be cracked out. So the easiest tool that I've found for kind of getting in there is I've got a long size 10 spanner and a size 45 bit. What you'll find is if you're actually trying to put a socket in there, it's not too bad on the lower one. When you get to the top one, there's kind of not a lot of space. So this is by kind of the easier way of doing it. If you've only got a socket, you should still be able to do it. Just make that a little bit trickier, especially on the top one. But this is what you need: size 45 and something to lever it off. So I'm going to get rid of one of the bottom ones first. So we've got two at the bottom, one at the top. So we can get rid of one of the bottom ones, and it will make no difference whatsoever. The door's not going to fall off and it's still safe. Like so. And once you've cracked it off, what you can do is, rather than repeatedly do that, although this one's actually quite loose, but you can then obviously swap to a ratchet head spanner and just do that quickly. But there's the bolt. That's kind of what they look like. So obviously we've removed that one, and we've still got one in the bottom, one in the top. So the door's still rock solid; it's not going anywhere. Obviously, when we crack these two off, this is when it can actually move. So this is when we have to be a little bit careful. So let's move on. So what I'm going to do next is just crack the seal off on both the upper and the lower. Let's start on the lower. Just that little bit, just to crack off the pressure that's on the paint there. I'll do the same on the top here. Like so. Don't want to take them too far, because obviously the door will literally fall from the vehicle if you undo these completely. So it's just to crack them off so that they're nice and loose for the next stage. So now ready to remove the door from the car. And obviously these doors are very heavy, surprisingly so. So in an ideal world, what you want to do is grab someone to assist you so that they can lift the door whilst the other person undoes the bolts. And obviously when those bolts are free, the person can just literally lift it and place it safely on the ground. What you'll find as well when you're undoing these bolts is because the weight's kind of shifting up, down, left and right all the time. So when it comes to the last one, the bolt will kind of be doing this in its hole. So the steadier you can hold the door in situ, i.e. the other person whilst you undo it, the better. Some people will put a jack under the centre of the door with like a like a bit of a rubber protection between the bottom of the door and the jack. Yeah, you can do that, but again that only gives you a kind of a tipping point really, because obviously it can still go in all four directions. So you've got to be a little bit careful if you do that. It's better if you get someone to help you. If you are really stuck, that's something that you might look at. The other option you can do is literally to undo it on your own, which can be done, but like I said before, they are very heavy, so be prepared. What you don't want to do is get stuck or have to look for a tool whilst you're in the middle of getting this out. So do bear that in mind. If you can, grab a second person. Give this a try removing this on my own. Now if you're lucky, what will sometimes happen is you'll kind of you'll get these bolts out and you won't actually have to take any of the weight of it. Well, you will, you have to support it, but the weight won't drop onto you because the hinge sometimes has a layer of paint that needs to be cracked off as well. That's if you're lucky. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to support the door as close to the centre as I can with one hand. And I'm going to remove the top bolt, and then the whole door will be ready to come away. So I'll give this a try now. So that is your door removed.